When we make a mistake, something inside us tightens. Our body feels it before our mind admits it. There is a small fear that rises, whispering, "What if I am wrong?" For many people, this fear is not only about the mistake itself, but about what others might think. We imagine being judged, losing respect, or appearing foolish. Because of this, we try very hard to avoid being wrong, even when we know deep inside that everyone makes mistakes. This fear can quietly control our life. It can make us hide our true thoughts, stay silent in discussions, or pretend to know more than we do. Sometimes it even stops us from learning, because to learn means to accept that we don't know yet. When we see being wrong as a failure, we close the door to growth. But if we look carefully, we can see that every person we admire has been wrong many times. A wise person is not someone who is always right. A wise person is someone who can face being wrong without running away. When we allow ourselves to be imperfect, we begin to live with more honesty and calm. To be wrong is not a sign of weakness. It is a part of being human. The fear of being wrong is only a shadow in our mind. Once we face it gently, it loses its power. What remains is a softer, more open heart, one that can see the truth more clearly. When someone disagrees with us, something inside becomes tense again. We start to defend our opinion as if we are protecting our home. It feels personal, even when the topic is small. Why does this happen? Because our ideas are not just thoughts. They are part of how we see ourselves. When someone questions them, it feels like they are questioning who we are. From a young age, we learn that being right means being smart, capable, or worthy. So, when someone says we are wrong, our mind reacts with old habits of fear. We feel we must prove ourselves, to show that we are not weak. This reaction is not logical, it is emotional. And when emotion takes control, we often stop listening. We speak louder, we argue harder, and we forget what really matters. Many people think that winning an argument will bring peace, but often it only brings silence, not understanding. True peace does not come from being right. It comes from seeing the situation clearly and calmly. Defending our opinion may feel safe for a moment, but it builds a wall between hearts. When we start to notice this habit, we can pause and breathe. We can ask ourselves, do I need to protect this idea, or can I let it rest? The answer is often lighter than we expect. To release the need to defend everything is not to give up. It is to trust that our worth does not depend on always being right. Pride often wears a calm face. It tells us that we are strong, confident, and independent. But beneath that calm, there is a quiet pain. When our pride becomes too firm, it makes us fragile. We start to depend on being seen as right or good. Any small criticism can feel like a wound. We may smile on the outside, but inside, we are tense, always protecting an image of ourselves. This kind of pride is not the same as healthy confidence. Confidence allows space for mistakes. Pride, however, cannot breathe when it is wrong. It hides behind silence, or it strikes back with sharp words. It builds distance between people, a distance that grows each time we choose to be right instead of kind. The pain of pride is that it keeps us alone. It stops us from saying, "I was wrong," even when our heart is heavy. It keeps us from learning, even when truth is knocking at the door. And yet, most of the time, others are not our enemies. They are simply seeing the world from another angle. When we recognize this, something softens. We begin to see that pride is only fear wearing armor. Once we take off that armor, we may feel exposed, but we also feel lighter. To admit a mistake is not to lose dignity. It is to return to honesty, the quiet strength that needs no defense. There comes a moment when the truth quietly appears before us. It may come during a conversation, a simple reflection, or even while we are alone. At first we might try to push it away. Our mind says, "No, that can't be right." But deep inside, something recognizes it. That small, clear voice that knows we were mistaken. In that instant, time feels heavy. Our thoughts start to move quickly, looking for excuses or someone else to blame. We want to escape the feeling of being wrong. It can feel like standing in a bright light after living in shadow. Yet if we stay with that moment, without turning away, we begin to see something important. That discomfort is not our enemy. It is a teacher. To realize we were mistaken is a turning point. It shows that we are awake, that we can see more clearly now than before. The mistake itself is no longer the problem. What matters is what we do next. We can close our heart, or we can open it. We can cling to pride, or we can accept the truth with quiet courage. When we choose to face it gently, we may even feel relief. The struggle to defend ourselves ends. The heavy mask we have been wearing falls away. And in that simplicity, we can breathe again. Being wrong is no longer a failure. It is a moment of returning to what is real. When we realize that we are wrong, what we do next shapes our heart. Some people rush to explain, trying to make the mistake smaller. Others hide it and hope no one will notice. But neither brings peace. True peace begins when we stop running. The moment we say, "Yes, I was wrong," something shifts inside us. The tension begins to loosen. It may not be easy. Our voice might shake, or our chest might feel tight. Yet honesty has its own strength. It opens a space between people that argument cannot close. When we admit our mistake, we are not lowering ourselves. We are rising to meet the truth. That truth, once faced, no longer has power to hurt us. When someone points out our mistake, we can choose to listen instead of defend. Listening does not mean we agree with everything. It means we respect the moment enough to learn from it. If we respond with calm words, "I see," or "Thank you for telling me," we begin to heal the space between us and the other person. Each time we respond to being wrong with grace, we build a habit of peace. Slowly, we learn that our value does not depend on being perfect. The world does not collapse when we make an error. In fact, it opens. It allows us to see that truth is not a battle to win, but a light to share. Humility is not weakness. It is the quiet strength that comes from seeing things as they truly are. When we are humble, we no longer need to stand above others. We no longer need to be seen as right. We begin to understand that truth is larger than our own opinion. In this understanding, a deep peace begins to grow. When humility enters the heart, life becomes softer. We stop comparing ourselves to others. We can listen without planning our reply. We can speak without trying to prove anything. This way of being feels simple, yet it brings great relief. It is like laying down a heavy bag we have carried for years without noticing. Humility also allows forgiveness to flow more easily. When we know we can be wrong, we can forgive others when they are wrong too. The wall between me and you begins to fade. What remains is a sense of connection. Not because we think the same way, but because we share the same fragile humanity. In humility, we find peace, not by shrinking, but by expanding. The world feels wider, the heart more open. The need to control, defend, or explain slowly disappears. What replaces it is a quiet trust in life itself, a trust that does not depend on always being right, but on being real. When a disagreement begins, most of us start preparing our reply before the other person even finishes speaking. Our mind races ahead, collecting words like shields. We wait for the right moment to strike back with our opinion. In this rush to defend, we often stop hearing what is truly being said. We listen to win, not to understand. But there is another way, to simply listen, to give space for the other person's voice without interruption. When we do this, something inside begins to change. The tension in our body softens. The distance between you and me becomes smaller. Often, we discover that the other person's truth does not destroy ours. It adds another color to the same picture. Listening does not mean we agree with everything. It means we respect the moment enough to allow understanding to grow. In many cases, the argument we feared disappears because one heart finally feels heard. Silence, when it holds kindness, can be more powerful than any clever answer. When we choose to listen instead of argue, we step out of the cycle of right and wrong. We stop trying to win and start trying to connect. What we gain is not victory, but peace. We realize that the world becomes gentler each time we give someone our full attention. In that quiet space, both hearts can breathe again. There is great freedom in living without the need to be right. When we let go of that need, life becomes lighter, conversations become warmer, and our hearts feel less guarded. We no longer measure our worth by how often others agree with us. Instead, we begin to enjoy simply being part of the shared human experience, learning, changing, and growing together. The need to be right often comes from fear. Fear of being seen as foolish, fear of losing control, fear of not being respected. But when we release that fear, we discover that respect does not come from perfection. It comes from honesty. People trust those who can admit mistakes and still stand calmly in truth. Living without the need to be right does not mean we stop caring about truth. It means we stop using truth as a weapon. We can still share our thoughts, but with gentleness. We can still hold our beliefs, but with open hands instead of clenched fists. This openness invites peace into every relationship, with others and with ourselves. When we no longer have to win every discussion, silence no longer feels like defeat. It feels like rest. We learn that sometimes the most powerful thing we can say is nothing at all. And in that quiet, we see the world as it really is, not a competition to win, but a shared journey to understand. To accept imperfection is to make peace with being human. Every one of us is a mixture of wisdom and confusion, light and shadow. When we expect ourselves to be perfect, we create endless disappointment. We chase an image that does not exist, and we suffer each time we fall short. But when we accept that mistakes are part of the path, we stop fighting against ourselves. Accepting imperfection does not mean giving up on growth. It means learning with patience, walking with honesty, and forgiving ourselves when we stumble. In this way, even our mistakes become teachers. They remind us to stay humble, to stay open, and to stay kind, not only to others, but also to ourselves. Many people think freedom means control, having everything go as planned. But real freedom comes from the opposite. It comes when we can live peacefully, even when things do not go our way. When we no longer fear being wrong, or falling short, or looking foolish, we are finally free to live fully. In the light of this understanding, imperfection becomes beautiful. It connects us, because every person we meet is also learning how to be whole within their flaws. To accept imperfection is to say yes to life as it is, not as we wish it to be. And in that simple yes, a quiet joy begins to bloom. There is something beautiful in realizing that we all walk the same uncertain road. Every person you meet, no matter how confident they appear, has been wrong, has doubted, has learned through mistakes. This is what connects us. It is not our perfection, but our shared imperfection that makes us human. When we see this clearly, judgment begins to fade. Compassion quietly takes its place. Each time we admit we are wrong, we make the world a little softer. We remind others that it is safe to be honest, safe to be human. The world does not need more people who are always right. It needs more people who are kind when they are wrong. When we live with that spirit, even the smallest moments, a sincere apology, a gentle word, become acts of healing. So, if you have listened until now, thank you. I am deeply grateful for your presence here. Your time, your attention, and your openness give life to these reflections. To those who have shared kind comments, joined as members, offered super thanks, or supported this channel in any way, please know that your generosity is felt with warmth and respect. Each act of kindness helps this space remain a place of calm reflection. May your days be gentle, your heart open, and your steps steady, even when you are wrong. For in every mistake, there is a path back to truth. And in every heart, there is the quiet wisdom of simply being human.